Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot, I put that on everything.
Craig.
When they first went to the mountains, they were high off clay day, hitting the road, singing the fight song. But they never went in Boulder, and Utah right after just ain't fair. They started fast, but that didn't last for long.
It's so true. Yeah, the laughing turns to crying, right?
Yeah, right. So this is Podcast versus Everyone. Not as jovial, not as excited or happy as last week. I'm Craig Powers. With me is Jeff Newser. Jeff, how you doing tonight?
I'm awesome, dude. Just got done watching. We were talking about this right before we come on. Just got done watching Captain Marvel for the first time.
One of my favorite Marvel movies.
Yeah, so like I think I've said this on the show before, but we're working our way through the Marvel Cinematic Universe, me and my kids, and because they didn't see a lot of them, I didn't watch a lot of them. I don't see a lot of them in the theater because my wife doesn't particularly care for them, so and I'm not the type to go. So we've been catching up, and we are now up to Captain Marvel, which means we're getting awfully close to Infinity War. So very excited to finally get to Infinity War for the kids, and which is it's kind of a heavy one for them, but I think they'll be okay. So anyway, Captain Marvel was awesome. I loved it. It's like I was telling you, had I known it was set in 1995, I would have been all over it in the theater, maybe like 3 or 4 times, because it was just like, oh yeah, back to high school. This is totally hilarious. Reminded me of like my freshman year at Wazoo, especially like the Alta Vista search engine.
Yep.
Good times right there. And then like, what is it doing? What's the computer doing? And they're like, it's loading. And they're all just sitting there. And I'm like, I remember what that was like. So anyway, for the young people in the audience, this is what it's like to be old. So.
Yep. It was, that's a good one.
It was good.
Not a good one. WSU's trip to the mountains this weekend.
I was trying to steer us out of that, but
yeah,
there's really no way around that.
They went down to Colorado, had a nice hot start, hit a bunch of threes. We're really in that game until about 12 minutes left. Then they scored 5 points the rest of the way, and then ended up losing by 20-ish. Yeah, what do you think about that one? Man, that was rough. Pollard went out with an injury. You could point to that, but
they were already sliding.
They were already slowing down at that point.
It makes for a convenient narrative point to be able to be like, oh, Pollard got hurt, and then it all fell apart. It was already falling apart, but it definitely hastened the demise for sure. We
knew coming in, Colorado had pretty good defense, and they really locked them down. They weren't getting good shots. They weren't taking good shots. It was just a rough time in that last 12 minutes, and we've seen it on the road before with this team.
Yep.
And it just reared its ugly head again, and once again they got their butts kicked in what KenPom.com calls the best home court advantage in the country.
Yeah, it's so tough for everyone to play there. I think it was pretty like awesome. I don't know. Awesome's not the right word. Like it's not awesome when you lose by 3 touchdowns or whatever. But it's like I think it was positive that they hung around as long as they did. They fought as long as they did. They fell behind. They clawed back a little bit. They really kept fighting, all the way through. Something that certainly previous iterations of this team, have not always done. So. That part was positive, but they really just don't have the depth yet, to sustain something like that.
Particularly now with all the injuries.
Yeah. And, so when you're at home, I mean, I think we noted last week, against Oregon State, they had 5 guys play 30 plus minutes and 2 of them were freshmen. And, that's just not sustainable, particularly, then playing at altitude. They got a little bit gassed. I hesitate to rely on that too much because, they didn't exactly play heavy minutes in that either. But, I just think Colorado's really good. They whooped up on Washington. Really, I think the final score was a little bit closer than ours, but it was a laugher at halftime against Washington.
Right.
Washington's its own sort of special kind of mess right now, but this team's doing a lot of things right, and that's the part I have to remind myself of. I know we're going to talk about Utah, and that one was sort of annoying because it felt like they were kind of right there to make it happen, but they're doing a lot of things right, and you can even if the results are a little iffy at times during that first season, you can hang your hat on a lot of process things when you see some things going right, and it's kind of how I feel about these guys right now. Both of these games they were ahead, they fell behind, they clawed back, and then fell apart. And you hang your hat, I think, especially I'm sure the coaching staff is doing this too. You hang your hat on the good stuff, and 3/4 of a game is certainly movement in the right direction in a location where we've really had no success whatsoever. Literally had no success.
I did want to talk about one guy who hasn't played much, but was forced into action largely because of Pollard's injury, and that's Deron Henson, or Darren, however you pronounce it.
It's Deron. Yeah,
Deron, yeah. We had heard, before the season that he was the so-called best shooter on the team. And yeah, he does has an absolutely pure stroke, and Colorado was not ready for that.
No.
And he man down them to death. And that was, an impressive shooting performance. So you're thinking, like, this team has struggled offensively all year. Why isn't this guy on the floor? And Jeff, I wanted you to talk a little bit about why he's not on the floor.
Yeah, well, so first off, you can see why Ernie Kent liked him, right?
Right.
Like he is not bashful about shooting, and he can really shoot. He definitely. I think you said this to me. You made note of his shooting stroke. I mean, it's a nice, pretty high release shooting stroke. The dude absolutely looks like a stone cold shooter, which is certainly something we could use. Right? Is someone who can shoot. But he doesn't really seem to do a whole lot else well. In fact, during that stretch when he was hitting some threes, basically there were 5 points in a row, 2 baskets. One was a 2, one was a 3, that I would say were probably directly attributable to his poor defense. One was he's a little slow on a rotation, cutting off a drive, and the offensive players kind of pulled up for a little free throw line jumper and drained it. And then on the next one, they kind of dumped it in. It wasn't all the way to the post, but it was it was kind of baseline, dumped into a post player on the baseline. For some reason, he decided to come off the shooter to dig down, and he committed sort of the cardinal sin, right, which is you either go hard or you stay. And he kind of got, for whatever reason, took one step and got caught in no man's land. The ball went right back out to his guy, and he promptly drained a 3.
And his guy is one of the better three-point shooters in the country. Like, really, So, it's Seward, Lucas Seward. So it was a guy that was kind of shredding WSU all day. Yep. And
not a guy you can leave open at all. And so, for where the program is at right now, Kyle Smith has made it very, very, very clear that the emphasis is on defense, that they are going to hang their hat on defense. They're going to try and win with defense. And they're even going to put up with a certain amount of bad offense if the defense is sound. And you could sort of see right away that Henson just does not have a good feel for what he's supposed to be doing, defensively, and for the minutes he's played, which of course has not been much, but the minutes he has been in, his defensive rebounding percentage is 5%. He's
been playing the 4 or 5.
And he's been playing the 4 or the 5. So, in theory, he should be close enough to the basket to get some rebounds. And he's just not getting hardly any. So,
we consider Pollard a bad defensive rebounder, right, and he's at 12%.
Right. So 5% is like, and again, a
small
lot of sample size, it can be skewed one way or the other.
But you're talking like a lot of guards who don't even chase rebounds
end up better than that.
And better than that.
Yes. Yeah. And so, if I were just to guess, he's not playing because he's not grading out well on the defensive stuff in practice.
And he's a bit of a bad matchup. He's 6'7", 210. They had him at the 5 basically because Pollard was out.
Right.
And because Ellaby, I don't think they wanted to get him into foul trouble or even further into foul trouble when he played. So it was just they had to be on, and he was guarding a guy about 50 pounds heavier than him.
Right.
That doesn't help. He was getting to the glass very easily. It was a very big matchup. If it's just one of those things, like if there was more on the team, like if he could play like a wing 3 and then be hidden a little more defensively, he's the type of guy you could have come in for 10, 15 minutes a game and hit 3 threes and, be awesome. But it's just when he's playing those extended minutes, like, and we're just so thin on the front line that like he has to play the 5, which he is not a 5 in any way. And apparently like Markovetsky has just been that ineffective that he couldn't play either.
Yeah. He's just really slow right now.
Yeah.
He can't do, I'm not trying to bag on the kid. I don't want to sound like I'm ripping on the kid. I mean, I think you're the one who said this to me, which is like, 7-footers who can move and do stuff, don't fall into WSU's lap.
Exactly.
That late in the recruiting process.
Right.
So he was always going to be a project. I do think, from conversations I had with people, they were expecting him to be able to do a little more than what he's done so far, but
yeah, it felt like he was going to be a contributor as a freshman.
It felt like he might play 10 or 15 minutes, and that has not happened. So
a lot of DMPs.
Yeah, and you can see it when he comes in that he's obviously he's big. So I mean, he's got that going, but other than that,
like he's a very good rebounder.
Yep, because he's 7
particularly
feet tall.
Offensively,
yep.
But he's 3 of 12 from the free throw line. Like he's 8 of 14 from the floor, but he like those 6 misses probably all should have been makes.
Probably.
I don't even know if he has a dunk on the season, like of any of those shots. And he's like, right, I remember, you always see these like, particularly like the European bigs, and they're just not as aggressive towards the basket as like a big from the U.S.
Right.
And they go for layups more, and Markovetsky's not a perimeter player like like a Dirk Nowitzki type, but he still is a little softer on the basket. And I think these 7-footers that end up at WSU, he doesn't look like any sort of lost cause by any stretch of the imagination. He just looks like a big 7-footer that needs to adjust.
Yeah,
and
needs some strength, needs some conditioning.
Yeah,
needs to transform his body a little bit.
And he hasn't been very good defensively. And so if you're going to not have a very good defensive player, you might as well have the dude. If you're choosing between him or Henson, you might as well have the dude that's going to hit threes. So it's like,
right.
So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how much we see Henson more. I mean, his shooting, I'm sure, is just tempting for Smith. So we can transition to the Utah game. He did get some first half minutes. He actually probably his scoring in the first half was keeping WSU in it a bit, but obviously you don't know what the trade off was on the offensive end, but
right.
on the defensive end. But yeah, he definitely he was showing out again in the first half, but it's just, yeah, against Utah, a significantly worse team than Colorado.
Yep.
So that's why we thought, that's the one we can get. And first for about the first 15 minutes, and then they kind of let they had one of those droughts and let Utah pull away, but then they were able to get back and actually take the lead from being down 10 plus.
They were down 12.
They were down 12. CJ finally gets going. He didn't score at all in the first half. Foul trouble. I'm going to let you talk about that.
Quote unquote foul trouble.
So foul trouble, but he comes in, hits 3 threes. Bonton hits a 3. They take the lead.
Yeah.
But then after that, it was a struggle. And then really what was disappointing was the defense down the stretch, particularly the defense on Utah's point guard.
Yeah.
That just letting him get to the basket. I know he's a solid player, but he's not that good. And just to let him get to the basket over and over and down the stretch and just really put the game away, put it out of reach for Utah was frustrating to watch, because that really felt like when they came back and took that lead, you're like, all right, like they took a punch, they came back, and maybe they can ride this one out. But again, there was let's go ahead. Let you talk about a big part of it was Ellaby's foul trouble, and I know you talked about it on Twitter, but talk about how CJ Ellaby ended up with 4 fouls with about 15 minutes left in the game.
I mean, that was some pretty typical Pac-12 reffing. He got 2 quick fouls in the first half on charges where, we've seen those sorts of things called flops by the refs this year, right?
Especially if your name is Noah Williams.
Right, with the new flop rules, if you're going down before there's contact, it's supposed to be called a flop. That happened twice. And look, I mean, he's not the quickest guy. He can be crafty when he's driving to the basket. He tends to be a little more successful when he's going to the basket with just sort of those sort of awkward, I guess maybe call it like, just kind of European type moves where maybe he takes off on the wrong foot. He kind of does a little step over. And
he's a good leaper. So I think he relies on kind of, getting up in the air and then creating the shot out of that. So.
But he's definitely not a put the ball on the ground and blow past you kind of guy. And, one thing, credit to Utah. What they tried to do was put a smaller guy on him, and really kind of maybe just stay in front of him. They really didn't want him getting to the basket. That seemed pretty obvious, and that they were going to, concede maybe some longer jumpers to him. Early on, CJ's trying to make something happen. Again, small dude slides in front of him, is falling over before the contact happens, and he got called for a pair of charges. And the refs then, once they sort of established that precedent, then it was just charges all over the place for the entire game, both ends of the floor. It wasn't just against us, although it definitely was disproportionately affecting us. But so those were the first 2, and that really rendered him basically useless for the rest of the first half. And then he picked up his 3rd early in the second half. I think it was in the second half, maybe not, I don't remember. Yeah. So it was after he came out in the second half and started bombing away, and that's where having the smaller players on him, he starts just shooting over him.
I'm just gonna shoot
right. He's like, I'm just gonna shoot over you, and he hits like 3 in a row. So that worked out great. Well, then I don't know what happened after that. Maybe they were talking shit or whatever, but the refs decide that they're going to call a foul away from the basket, on a double foul away from the basket on the two.
A double technical foul?
It wasn't a technical. It was just a double foul.
Oh, the TV broadcast first said.
Yeah, they were wrong. As I'm sure that will shock you that the TV broadcast was incorrect. But according to the official stats, they were not technical fouls. Jazz Kuntz got a technical foul for his flagrant foul on the breakaway, which was again another ridiculously bad call. That was something that did hasten the downfall in the first half. They ended up getting 4 points on that trip, and that was just sort of like when that snowball started.
That Jazz sequence was pretty hilarious, and that whole 3-minute sequence when he asked to come out,
right,
and then
limping, and then he hits a 3,
and then hits a 3, and then gets a steal, and it was like he's just begging to come out.
He's finally gassed, he just reaches
for a guy, and then they call it.
And then they call it a flagrant. It's just
Utah gets 4 points.
It's so ridiculous. So
WSU went from having, I think, a 7-point lead to a 3-point lead at that point.
The double foul was on CJ Ellaby and Timmy Allen, the 2 best players in the game,
who were both on 3 fouls who it put them both at 4 fouls.
Put them both at 3 fouls.
That's what it was. Yeah, put them both at 3 fouls with 18 minutes left in the second half or whatever.
And then CJ's 4th one was on. He was contesting something in the post, jumped straight up, really didn't swipe at the guy at all, really made no contact whatsoever, and they called another. It was just, it's it's that home court advantage, right? That we talk about. It's actually this is actually part of that.
Yeah, it is. When Ken Pom has various factors that go into home court advantage, and foul differential is a big one.
And it exists. People sometimes will be like, is that really a thing? It is a thing. It is definitely a thing. There are metrics that he can measure that happen different from home and road that have, an impact on the game, right? And so these teams are really always near the top.
Well, yeah, Utah, not so much Utah. It's there's some other factors. This year they're 123rd in personal foul difference between home and road.
Yeah.
Colorado's 42nd, but Colorado is first in point differential. Utah is, I don't know what NST is. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, that's the non-steal turnovers. Is what that is. So apparently there's some sort of correlation between non-steal turnovers home and away. Which would sort of make sense because maybe you get more friendly whistles at home in that one. I think some of that probably comes into fouls a little bit because charges are non-steal turnovers as well. So anyway,
I find it pretty. I like how he adds elevation. I don't think that's in the equation, but I think he just adds it as a.
I think it might be because
you think it is?
Yeah, when he first, I haven't looked at it in a long time, but I do remember when he first started exploring this, and I know that like kind of the number one thing that he found was elevation was sort of the number one factor. That was like when he first started doing the analysis, Utah, Air Force, Colorado sort of jumped right off the page. New Mexico was another one. And when you look at the top home court...
And that is actually where Ken Pomeroy is from and based and Salt where Lake he City. Worked. And yeah, so he's kind of... Those are the teams that he kind of started this whole journey with, right. Particularly Air Force.
Right.
And so that it makes sense that he would kind of come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
But
well, when you look at the top 15 home court advantage teams... let's see. Looks like about 12 of them are in like the top 70 in terms of elevation. And then another like 10 of them are in like the top 40 in elevation. So it matters.
Let's like just a little bit on how like is there like in terms of like home court advantage, because Colorado and Utah aren't necessarily always good. Like Utah's not that good this year. Colorado is. But in terms of like a road trip where you're just at a disadvantage based on where you're playing, like I don't think there's a road trip in college basketball that's tougher than this. Like you're playing these two teams in 48 hours basically, and so like a little more maybe. Like they basically had to. I think they had like 43 hours between when the Colorado game ended and when the Utah game started, and plus they're not that close.
Right.
Like
I was going to say that
it's like an 8-hour trip, like by road. Like so, but I mean, I don't know how they go, but they must fly. I
assume they fly. Yeah.
But it's still it's like it's part of the difficulty of the Washington State trip is the huge gap. But this is an even bigger.
Yep. That's the only one that's even close is the Washington State trip. All the other ones you can stay somewhere, drive by bus. So that's, you fly into a place, play at altitude, and then get up and, fly again to the other place and, play at altitude again. It's tough. It's tough. It's real tough.
I've seen WSU go, they were at roughly around 100 for the start of this year, but I think because of they've had such a stark difference between their performance on the road and at home, as many of the Pac-12 teams have this year. They're up to like 82nd in home court advantage now, which is pretty funny. So if you're worried about how WSU is performing on the road, that's fine, but just know that pretty much every Pac-12 team is having that issue this year.
Yep.
We saw Arizona lose to Arizona State. We saw Stanford lose at Cal. These are losses that should not have happened, but they do. I mean, we saw Oregon lose at WSU.
It's crazy. In the Pac-12, 75% home teams have won almost 75% of games. It's the third most of any conference in the country, and there's 32 conferences. So out of 32, we're third. This conference is third. So yeah, it's home court advantage for whatever reason has been really, really, really strong this year. I'm not sure why that is. It's not always like that. For example, last year it was 15th. Home team only won just a shade under 60% of the games. So I don't know. I'm not sure what to read into that. I just know that this year there's like Cal beating Stanford, right? Like Cal beat Stanford and they played Stanford 2 times already for whatever reason, scheduling quirk. And so in the first game at Stanford, Stanford won by, 16 or 20 or something. And then of course they go play at Cal and Cal wins by a point or 2. And yeah, it's just been weird. It's been very, very weird. So, which I guess is a good thing for us. Cause if we can win some home games, then, that bolsters the overall record and, fans feel good. And, I will bet that, and I don't know, cause a Wednesday night game is a Wednesday night game, plus it's 8:00. So, that might be weird against Arizona State, but, I'll be interested to see. I would guess that there will be a little more interest and a little higher attendance, just based off of what happened against Oregon and Oregon State.
I would hope so.
And I just would guess that, it's going to sound, maybe not great, but, I would imagine our fans probably didn't pay a heck of a lot of attention to what happened at Utah and Colorado.
I will say,
especially the students.
I will say I was on Twitter during both games, and there was definitely more people watching those games than there was the trip to Cal and Stanford. So I think there was more, but did the students, I don't know. They were both on Pac-12 networks. I don't know,
I doubt it. I doubt they were paying any kind of mind whatsoever. Really.
So yeah, they still remember that we crushed Oregon and Oregon
they'll be like,
State.
That was fun. Let's do that again.
Yeah. So hopefully, that's really the difference is the students showing up for those weekday games, particularly. But yeah, let's take a little break and then let's talk about the weekend ahead.
Let's do it. We're back.
All right. Yeah, I said the weekend ahead, but of course, as you mentioned, this bit for TV purposes, this first game is on Wednesday, not like the old Thursday, Saturday every weekend.
Right.
I don't think when I was in school we ever had a Wednesday game that was a conference game. Like I feel like the Gonzaga games were always on Wednesday, but the conference games are always on Thursday.
Yeah, this is definitely a since the new TV deal, Pac-12 kind of thing.
It makes it a lot harder Pullman-wise to do like a both games trip.
Yep.
Because I was like I said, I thought about doing that for Oregon because it was Thursday, Saturday, so that was better. But yeah, I'm really bummed that our home Washington game is on a Sunday, which sucks. But
it'd be nice if they'd throw us a bone once in a while and have it be like a Friday, Sunday afternoon. And then you really could do both.
Friday, Sunday afternoon would be the ideal. That would be awesome. Friday at like 7, Friday 7, Sunday 2 or something.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. So, but they will never do that.
No, because they don't care about us.
They put our game against our biggest rival at 5 p.m. on Sunday. So. Cool. But
yeah.
But anyway, so this weekend, first we got Arizona State, 8 p.m. on
a Wednesday.
On a Wednesday.
Yep.
Do you need me to write that recap, Jeff?
No, I'm on it. I'll get it.
Okay.
It might be only 200 words, but by golly, I'll do one.
But yeah, so 8 p.m. on a Wednesday. Arizona State is they just had a huge win. I mean, that literally, I think beating Arizona puts them in a position to where they potentially could be a tournament team. They have a lot of work to do, but net wise, they're ranked like 57, so not so bad. Interesting factoid that I put in my preview. WSU is actually, when you're playing them on the road, is a quadrant 2 game now. Because they're 108 in net, and it's up to 125, 130, something like that. So this can actually be a resume win for Arizona State.
When was the last time we could say that?
Well,
that
ask
beating
Mark
Wazoo
Few.
was a resume win.
Ask Mark Few.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
But yeah, so yeah, legitimate.
I have a lot of other things I'd ask that guy before I asked him that question. Let me tell you.
But yeah, so Arizona State, interestingly enough, is this is their much like they've kind of trended this way, but they've become a very much more defensively focused in terms of what they're good at, team, and just a not very good offensive team. Their offense is actually, and I mentioned this to you earlier, their offense, their offensive kind of strengths and weaknesses they're almost exactly the same as WSU's. Like, it's very weird.
Did you use the Spider-Man meme in your preview?
Oh no, I didn't, because
that would have been perfect.
I ain't basic, bitch. Come on.
Hey,
but yeah,
visuals can communicate things, you know.
Offensively, they don't shoot well.
Right.
They're a little better on the inside, a little worse on the outside than WSU. They don't turn the ball over very much. They don't rebound offensively. WSU over the season is better, but we know recently they've kind of abandoned that.
Yep.
And then they don't get to the free throw line very much. WSU doesn't either. The one thing stylistically, Arizona State shoots more inside. I think it's a product of Remy Martin and Romello White than WSU. WSU shoots 3-pointers more often. But other than that, like, their strengths and weaknesses pretty similar, and they're pretty comparable in terms of effectiveness offensively. By that to mean they're not very good offensively.
Right.
But yeah, so obviously the guys to watch out for offensively, Remy Martin. They have this kid named Alonzo Verge who starts sometimes, doesn't start sometimes, generally is bad. Scored 43 points against St. Mary's for some goddamn reason. I don't know. He's going to hoist. And sometimes it's going to work out, and most of the time it's not. They got a 3-point specialist in Rob Edwards. Really their defense is what could hurt WSU. They force turnovers. WSU has generally been pretty good at taking care of the ball, but we've seen them have some games where they can be coerced into giving the ball away, and that has me worried. Jalen House is a good defender that they have. He's kind of the huge difference in their turnover percentage this year. But otherwise, WSU should be able to rebound pretty well on both ends, I think. It'll be interesting to see. WSU has shot a lot better from 3 in Pac-12 play, which sometimes is counterintuitive. But of course, it's adjusting to the line, whatever.
They were never as bad shooting as what they were early in the year.
Yeah,
like they were never going to stay that bad.
We talked about it last week, but it's even better now. Like Bonton and CJ both have pretty good percentages now. They're both over 33% now. So
yep.
That's where you at least want to be, to 33% to be like a high volume 3-point shooter. But in Pac-12 play, both of them are well above that. So that's really where, to me, rebounding and hitting threes are going to be big for the Cougs in this one, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Keeping Arizona State off the line, I think, will be another one. That Arizona State has been all that good this year at getting to the line, but something I pointed out on Twitter the morning after the Utah game is that, it's interesting. This team, has had a tendency to give up high free throw rates on the road.
Yep.
And I think, and those high free throw rates are pretty heavily correlated at this point with losses. And Ken Palm does this sort of interesting thing I don't think it's super meaningful, but he'll take the 4 factors, shooting, turnover percentage, rebounding percentage, and then free throw rate, which is just free throw attempt divided by field goal attempts. It's just basically free throw frequency, right? And for WSU's defense, shooting is always going to be the number one factor for all that. It's the most important factor for, what should be very obvious and intuitive reasons. But it's always sort of interesting to look and see.
So you're saying that Ernie Kent was a genius?
Yeah, right. But when you look at the the other three factors, sometimes it's interesting if one of them sort of sticks out correlation wise. Right. And for WSU, the number 2 correlation, it's not a strong correlation. It's like, 0.5 or whatever, which I don't know that much about stats. You know more than I do, but I do know that's not a super strong, but it's like, hey, indicating this is sort of a thing. Defensive free throw rate is the number 2 factor with our defensive efficiency. It's actually surpassed turnover percentage, which we all kind of think of as being the thing that we kind of hang our hats on defense. It's the thing that makes our defense go. I do wonder a little bit, and maybe you have some thoughts on this, if those two things kind of go hand in hand a little bit, in that, we do play a pretty aggressive, pretty handsy defense. And at home, maybe you get away with that a little more than you do on the road. You get, again, we already established, Ken Palm established a long time ago that, you tend to get more fouls called on you on the road. Reaching fouls, blocking type fouls, block charge fouls, things like that would seem to be the sorts of things that would maybe go a little bit more toward the home team than the road team. And maybe you get away with that a little bit more at home than you do on the road. I can't say that for sure, but it seems like a plausible theory. And, if our defense tends to be pretty good when it's getting turnovers, obviously, but when it's not giving up a parade to the free throw line. And that has tended to happen more on the road than it has at home. So, maybe coming back home, we'd ramp up the turnovers a little bit. Again, you mentioned Arizona State doesn't turn over a ton, but, maybe ramp it up a little bit. Also don't give up, don't give up easy free throws, on with weak fouls, things like that. Those kinds of things I think are going to make a difference because, one thing we know is that, we're a pretty good, shot defense team when we're kind of on it and at home in particular. So
right.
I think, I think the recipe is there to hold Arizona State down and produce a pretty close game.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about this Arizona State game. Not necessarily predict to win, but I think it's a toss-up, and based.
So
on
does Ken Palm.
Yeah, and I know obviously that influences my thinking, but when I look at the peripheral data, it's like there's nothing about Arizona State that I don't think WSU can at least neutralize. Romello White is a little scary because he, could potentially do the same thing to WSU that Colorado's big.
Huge free throw rate. He's got a
Evan
huge
Batty.
free throw rate.
Yeah, so he could, potentially do what Evan Batty did. We also didn't mention that WSU was pretty fortunate that Tyler Bay didn't play in that game. But,
yeah, that could have been even worse.
They still lost by 20.
Yeah, Colorado was missing their best player, and we lost by 20. So.
Who would have been guarding CJ and also just murdering him. Right. Evan Batty just murdered them on the inside. But White is more athletic than Batty, doesn't have that girth that Batty does. So I think that Pollard specifically could body him up a little bit more, keep him off the glass, because I think that'll be the matchup.
Yeah, they're going to be definitely emphasizing that matchup. How do we neutralize that guy?
Yeah,
and that's going to be a challenge, right? I mean, we've got Pollard, and that's it. And Pollard certainly is not super athletic.
Well, and it's also not just down to your bigs because Remy Martin's a very difficult guard up top to keep out of the lane. We have some good defensive guards, but we've also seen them break down against Utah and break down against other teams. Even McKinley Wright, they did a pretty good job against, but he had his moments. I think that Remy Martin is probably even a little quicker than McKinley Wright. And also probably a little bit better shooter. So he's a little more, he's kind of a guy you have to put, you got to have an arm on him at all times. You can't just lay off of him for the sake of the drive because he'll bury a three. So there is obviously some challenges, but we've seen this team play very well defensively at home. They played the best player / point guard in the conference last week at home, or a week and a half ago at home, and beat that team and held them to 0.91 points per possession. So the one thing that encourages me is Arizona State doesn't have the size to the interior bigs to just exploit WSU over and over again inside.
They've basically got one dude. It's White.
Yeah,
he's basically one guy.
And when there's one guy, WSU's done pretty well. When there's multiple guys like Oregon State or Santa Clara, even like Colorado State, teams like that, they've been able to destroy WSU on the inside. Utah even was able to do that. They had enough bigs to do that. So I'm pretty confident we can hold them down. Their offense isn't that good, so I would expect like a 0.9-ish, on the defense. Just really, they do have a good defense though, but WSU has done a lot better offensively at home as well as defensively. So I hope just that home cooking can help them avoid those like long, stinky stretches of just trash offense and kind of give them the energy to find those open shots, maybe hit a couple tough ones, and maybe, you can get Kuntz to knock down one of his corner threes, which I feel like he just never does on the road. Guys like that, DJ Rodman although it does seem that I don't know if he's fully healthy, of course. But hopefully Noah Williams, he had a tough weekend.
He had one of the best stat lines I've ever seen on Saturday.
Yeah, just ridiculous. That
was awesome. What was okay? So it was 6 minutes.
6 minutes.
2 points, 3 field goal attempts, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 turnovers, or maybe it was 1 rebound, 1 assist, 2 turnovers, and 5 fouls. Like he did a little bit of everything in 6 minutes.
Well, a lot of fouling.
He did a little bit of everything else and did a lot of fouling.
At least one of the turnovers was a foul as well.
It was. Yeah, that if anything exemplified sort of the bizarre nature of that game, that was one. I think he'll play a pretty key role. I'm not sure that he can man up on Remy Martin. I think that's obviously going to fall to Bonton and Robinson. But I do think that I would not be shocked if we saw a pretty healthy dose of zone in this game, with getting some of the longer guys out on the floor. Maybe you see some, because they just if you can keep Remy Martin from sort of controlling the game. Fun fact: he's the number 1 usage player in Pac-12 play. He's playing 90+% of the minutes in Pac-12 play. So. He's 4th in minute percentage. He's 1st in percentage of possessions used. He's 1st in percentage of shots. He's also 5th in assist rate. So he's basically kind of doing the whole thing right now for Arizona State. And as he goes, they go. So I would not be shocked if they do maybe go for some stretches. I don't know if we'll see, a bunch of Ryan Rapp. I doubt we'll see a lot of him, but wouldn't shock me if we saw, maybe some length on the perimeter where they go zone to really maybe try and frustrate him and kind of get the ball out of his hand and keep him from, really kind of controlling the game, doing the drive and dish stuff that he likes to do so much. So that'll be interesting. And I think, the offense obviously with us is always sort of a crapshoot, but defensively, I'm with you that I think we
can shoot.
Yeah. I think we can hold them down. I think we can hold them down defensively. I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be an exciting game. Really just hope that somehow they figure out a way to pull it out, because, Arizona coming to town is awfully tough, awfully tough on Saturday.
Red Hot is, as you know, I can walk to from my house. Is having a Fremont Barrel Age night on Wednesday, so I might be watching on my phone.
Oh dear!
While sipping high grav stouts.
Ooh, yeah. So what you're really saying is that you will be an excellent Twitter follow.
Well, not really,
on
because
Wednesday.
If I'm
because you'll be
phone,
watching the game
really
on your phone.
So if
don't you have a tablet? Can't you bring a tablet?
No, I do not own a tablet.
What?
I guess I could bring my laptop.
What? I guess, yeah. I don't know. I thought everybody had a tablet. You have a daughter. How do you not have a tablet?
Amanda has a tablet. I don't have a tablet.
Oh, all right.
Tablets are dying. Dude.
I see. I guess.
They are. Pay attention.
Yeah.
Anyway, so on to Arizona.
Yeah. That's going to be a tough one.
Possessors of a 3-3 conference record.
Which is absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
But also ranked, top 20 by Ken Palm.
Yeah. 1 point. Yeah, top 12.
Top 12. There we go. That was close.
1 point loss to Oregon, then just got their butts kicked by Oregon State. Right before Oregon State came and lost to us.
That game was bizarre. Like Oregon State really just sort of played out of their minds.
They were just having a game.
Yeah.
They beat Utah, Colorado at home. They kicked the shit out of Colorado though, which
yes, they did.
True, like that's kind of their the true definition of how good they can be is how they just thoroughly crushed Colorado.
Well, they're 3-0 at home and 0-3 away.
Oh, there you go. Well, that sounds fantastic.
Yes, it does. Plus, they got to go play Washington before they play us, which is good.
Which is excellent.
Yep.
And it's on Thursday.
Yep.
It's not on. And I will be in Pullman for this one.
Will you?
I will.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
I'm beyond jealous.
It'll be literally the first time I'm going to use my season tickets all year.
Good job.
Yeah.
Way to go.
My Arizona State ones are on StubHub if you want to buy them.
Little plug for StubHub there. Supporters of SB
but if you're going to buy them, please go to my preview on Coug Center.
Please use the link on the preview.
Scroll down to the bottom where it says tickets, StubHub. Click on that. Then go buy them.
Yeah, use that. Yeah.
If you can do that and prove me that you did that, I'll give you tickets to a future game.
There we go. No, I mean Arizona. This is the Arizona that we've from years past, right? With three absolutely stud freshmen.
Yep.
Who will be around for approximately 15 more games, maybe. And I mean they are going to be an absolute matchup nightmare for us.
Yes.
Length and athleticism all over the floor.
Yeah.
Their top, of their top four rotation guys, top five rotation guys, 4 of them are underclassmen. They are really
like talking. Their 3 best players are freshmen.
Yeah, do not let the record fool you, people. They are very, very good. They lost to Baylor by 5. They lost to Gonzaga by 4. They lost to St. John's on a neutral floor by 3. And St. John's is not half bad. Lost in overtime to Oregon on the road. Lost by a point to Arizona State on the road. A game in which, by the way, they had a 22-point lead. 22. And then, of course, the Oregon State game, which we already said. I watched some of that game. That was just weird. Like, I mean, just sometimes that happens, right? A team gets hot and they light it up, and then a team just sort of gets buried. That's what happened in that Oregon State game. But every other game. So just quick math here, 5, 4, 9, 12, 13, 14. 5 of their losses by a combined 14 points, 5 of their 6 losses. So really, 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 and their wins they're pretty much killing people in their wins. So that's how you end up with such a high ranking in Ken Palm. Really good team. And in particular for us, going to present some really, some very unique challenges for us, like Nico Mannion. I don't know who guards that guy, 6'3", 190 point guard. I have no idea who on our team guards him, or even tries to slow him down. And then Zeke Naji, 6'11", 240. Like, we don't have anybody on our team who can even come close to kind of figuring that out. And he's
Jeff
not
Pollard, 6'9", 240.
And he's not an inside-outside guy. He's a destroy you in the paint guy. So that's going to be a challenge. I would not be shocked if we sort of got run off the floor in that game. Naji is probably the closest. The closest thing we've got is, and I'm totally drawing a blank on his name right now, but the kid from USC who annihilated us. That's probably the closest comp to what Naji is. I think he's going to be a top. He's 10 a little bigger.
They're both going to be.
Yeah, they're both going to be top 10 picks. So I think Naji's a little bigger, but similar kind of challenge. There we go. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah. Naji's going to be the same kind of challenge, and I just don't think we have. I just don't think we have anybody who can. Who can even really contest that. So I don't know, maybe And the thing is, you can't even just hack him like he's making 80% of his free throws. So
I know it's crazy, but like this is, like the one guy that gave Okongwu trouble was Tony Miller, because he's short, he's only 6'6", but he's strong and he's quick.
Yep.
And so he can at least stay in front of them.
Yep.
And he can at least bother them to like when he has the ball offensively. Yep. Like he can make them work a little. Like with Pollard, he's big and strong, but he just has very little lift. He's not quick, and just if there's just an athletic beast, it's very difficult for him. And given also, we have to say for Pollard, he's the only guy of that size. Otherwise you have a guy that's 200 pounds at 6'8" in Jazz Kuntz, and we already talked about Henson, and it's just
Markovetsky's really your only other option.
And we saw Markovetsky try to guard Okongwu, and it was a disaster.
It did not go well. Poor guy. I don't mean to laugh at him. I hope he doesn't listen to the podcast. I'm not trying to laugh at him. It's just he's just not ready. He's not ready yet. He's not ready for that yet. So
yeah, I know. Like my friends always pick one WSU home basketball game to go to every year, and they pick this one, and I was like, can you pick one that we could maybe win? But I don't know, it'll be fun. We'll have fun anyway.
Yeah,
but
you'll have fun. There's just nobody else in the conference who's like this with us.
Yeah, we talked about some of the teams that have given us trouble, and it's really teams that can really out athleticism us. Like it's and they can do that.
Well, Utah did it. Utah did it with their bigs. Like their bigs had not been playing well, had not had much of an impact. And, major credit to Chris Goviak. He really sort of, once they realized that our sole purpose was to shut down the Timmy Allen drives, and that was totally our job. That the defense was 100% geared to stop Timmy Allen from driving, which was the right thing to do. Right. Then 5 minutes into the game, Chris Goviak's like, all right, well, that's what you're going to do. We're going to work this little high-low with our bigs, and we're going to exploit your lack of size. And sure enough, that was a big problem. Arizona can do that, except with way better players. So
and so you have Nico Mannion, lightning quick. Also, when he breaks on the defense, can dish out to Dylan Smith and Jamal Baker, who both have over 40% on threes. And then obviously he can dump off to Najee, who not only is a terror in getting to the free throw line, also hits almost 80% from the free throw line. So it's just not fair.
No. There's really no way to stop him.
Yeah. It's so, I don't know. I don't have high hopes, other than, that home cooking, that home magic.
Yeah. And by the way, I want to point something out right now, just really quick. I actually mentioned his free throw percentage earlier.
Oh, thank you.
Payback. Payback's a bitch, Craig.
You don't know how many times I ignored the thing.
Hey, I repackage it in a different way when I repeat what you say, just so you know.
Okay.
All right, if we can get one win, we're happy, right?
Yeah.
We get one win, we're happy.
I mean, I'd be really happy if we got both, and one of them was Arizona while I was there. That would be fantastic.
That would be great. If we lost Arizona State, I'd be bummed, and then if we beat Arizona, I'd be like, don't care. This is the honestly, best thing ever.
In the grand scheme of things, if someone said you're only getting one, pick one. You go Arizona.
Well, then you're like, Arizona. Holy shit, we've got to win against Oregon. We've got to win against Arizona. We're like unstoppable.
Bring on all comers as long
Build
as it's
a statue to Kyle Smith.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, the coaching staff's doing an incredible job. I think we're both in agreement on that. It is hard to remember sometimes when you see a team competing the way they compete and putting themselves in positions repeatedly. As a fan, you just get to a point where you're like, all right, we can win this game. We can do this. You see them beat Oregon. You see them beat Oregon State. You're thinking, yeah, we can do that. And then when it falls apart, against Colorado or Utah, you just go, God damn it. And it's so frustrating, especially when you're watching that little shithead from Utah, just drive into the lane over and over again. You're like,
terrible
God,
haircut.
just in his ears. And you're just like, fucking stop that guy. Like, come on.
How is that guy good?
Oh, and you're just like, you just think like, come on, 4 more minutes of hard nosed. And it's just, and then like the next morning, I felt so bad because I was like, oh, this defense the last like 2 minutes has been embarrassing. Of course, me and, never tweet, right? And it's just like the next day I'm like, I really regret saying embarrassing because it's like they're playing their asses off. They've got like 7 guys, 8 guys, they're missing.
And it's just.
I mean, they got so many guys injured. Not that, if we're talking the guys who are injured, I mean, Tony Miller obviously wasn't counted on to be a rotation guy. But then he showed he could be one. You're missing him. You're missing Cannon. You're missing Shed. You're missing James. Like 3 of those guys, Cannon, Shed, and James, were absolutely going to be 3 of your top like 7 or 8 guys. And, your starting point guard, you're probably your 6th man in James, and then Cannon, maybe like your 7th or 8th guy. It's like, it's absolutely insane what Kyle Smith is doing right now. And in a good way. Like, it's just unbelievable. I kind of made a comment to someone the other day that the coaching staff was sort of holding it together with duct tape. And it's like they're just like that they've been able to stay competitive while all of this has happened is incredible. It's really, really, really incredible. Like if this were Ernie Kent, like how loudly would Ernie Kent be reminding us how many injuries they had? I mean, it would be
every single game.
Every game.
Why did
post-game.
WSU lose this week?
Yeah. We'd have to resurrect why did WSU lose this week, and we just have to say injuries, over and over and over again because that's what it would be. And Kyle Smith makes no excuses, and I know the coaching staff is making no excuses. That they are just like, hey, whoever's next, let's go. And some of the guys are really showing out. DJ Rodman is a guy. I mean, we haven't talked about this, but. I mentioned that their defensive game plan was mostly geared around stopping Timmy Allen drives. DJ Rodman was awesome on Sunday with that. I know that Noah Williams right now is kind of getting the buzz as like the defensive guy. Very quietly, DJ Rodman is a really good defender.
Absolutely.
And so when you put him together, and I know that Rodman was on Trace Tinkle for a lot not last weekend, but the weekend before with Oregon State. Those 2 guys, Williams and Rodman, are sort of have the makings of a really, what could be a special kind of defense over the next couple of years. If those are the 2 guys that are sort of your, the foundation of that,
Yeah.
They are just what the staff is doing.
And if Markovetsky can,
and if he's got to maybe turn 20 pounds of the baby fat into muscle, which can be done over the next 12 months for sure. And
I actually think that Jazz Kuntz is a really good defender. He's just
He's just too
small.
light. He's just too light.
Yeah.
He's just too light.
But he makes some really good plays on the ball.
He does. And he's a solid rebounder. He's not a great rebounder, but he's a solid rebounder.
He's about as good as you expect from a 4 who's 198 pounds.
Exactly. So he may. I think 198 is pushing it too. I'd be surprised if he's actually even that.
It's the old Robbie Cowgill bump.
I think so. So anyway, it just everything we've said. I think it's really important to point out that what they are doing is really remarkable and really should be viewed as such. This is a team with not. I don't think anybody's thinking it's top half of the conference talent. If we just put talent,
we weren't even. They're actually in a position, net ranking wise, where if they won a few big games down the stretch, they could be in the conversation for an NIT bid.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't even have considered that at the start of the season. That wasn't even on my radar. If
you just go pure talent of the guys in the rotation right now, I'm not sure that you put them above anybody in the conference, honestly. I'm not even sure you put them ahead of Cal, to be honest. And so to do what they've done with the hand they've been dealt is just, it's awesome. It's really fun to watch. It's remarkable. I think it's something to be admired.
And some of the, there's a couple young pieces that make you excited. Like there's not a ton of it. It's not. There's not a senior leading this team.
No. Everybody's probably back next year except for Pollard and probably Ellaby. And I'm not even sure about Ellaby. I do think he's got his sights set on the NBA.
Yeah, and I do think that he's starting to get it together.
Yep.
I think if you would have asked me after the first 4 conference games, I've been like, no, there's no fucking way. But he's really getting his shit together, and
so I wouldn't be surprised if he went.
And you got Klay Thompson on the broadcast being like, "Oh, he's an NBA player. He's an NBA player."
But everybody else is coming back. I mean, obviously pending transfers or whatever. But everybody else is coming back. You're losing your center. They're definitely going to need to add a little bit of size. Maybe another grad transfers in the works on that one. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see kind of how they retool the front court a little bit. But it's exciting to think, okay, between this year and next year, I think the things that fans could really be like, yeah, that's something to hang your hat on a little bit. They've focused almost exclusively on defense, and the offense is definitely starting to come around as the season has gone on.
Absolutely.
The offense is actually outperforming the defense in conference play, which I think probably a lot of fans would be sort of surprised by. So if the offense is coming around now, defensive principles get set. You can start to work on improving the offense between now and the beginning of next season, and that when you got all these guys coming back, I think that's a pretty exciting prospect. You see what Bonton can do, like you're seeing now what the coaches have seen in practice, that he can do this, that he can play. They've seen this in practice. He just for whatever reason wasn't translating to games. Well, now it's translating to games. He really does look like a legit. Really impact point guard type guy. And so it's exciting. It's exciting. So I would just encourage fans, not that, fans need to be lectured by me, but, really just try to hang your hat on the positives, the things that are just kind of remarkable, the way they fight, through these injuries, the way they've improved on offense. Try not to get super frustrated by, a bad shot by Bonton, cause those are going to happen. But, just sort of like kind of be a little bit in awe of what they're able to do with a roster that is severely depleted and, maybe down towards the bottom of the conference in talent. It truly is remarkable. And we would not be seeing this under another coach, particularly the previous coach. So.
Basketball. Official podcast of Kyle Smith fanboys.
That's right. For now, listen, if this is still the case 2 years from now, if this is where we're at 2 years from now, then I'm going to be a little bit like, come on.
He'll be writing an article.
Sure.
About how this just isn't
working.
Like,
I don't know, this is not acceptable.
And then they'll immediately turn it around.
But
so please, if this is happening in 2 years, write that article.
But for a first year, this is what you want to see. You want to see immediate coaching improvement. You want to see a culture shift.
You
want to feel
76 spots currently up in the Ken Pom rankings, and that's after getting their butts kicked for a weekend.
And that's with, he retooled the roster in about 5 minutes.
And then has lost 4 rotations.
And 2 of the guys are grad transfers he brought in specifically to play heavy minutes. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
And the backup to the grad transfer goes down.
Yeah, it's bonkers. The whole thing is, it's again, just remarkable. Absolutely remarkable what they are doing. The players deserve credit. The coaches deserve credit. It's a fun thing to watch. It's a fun thing to watch, and I
hope they can get a win or 2 this weekend to kind of keep the fan momentum going.
Yes, I think that would make a big difference.
If you
can win your home games,
sports,
that goes
except
a
with
long
fans.
Yeah,
win the home games. Keep the students coming.
Yep.
That gets those later home games later in the season. A little more crowded. That game against UW. Which will follow these. It'll be the very next weekend, and then actually they only have Cal and Stanford, but those are both games. Well, Cal in particular that they can definitely get, and so you'd want to get. But these 3 straight home games, UCLA coming after. Hopefully they can get 3 or 4 of these and. Or 2 or 3 wins out of these, but 3 of 4 would be great.
Yep.
And just kind of build some more excitement. They're currently projected for 6 Pac-12 wins. If they can get to 7, then they would have a winning record.
Yep.
That would be really cool.
And they keep bouncing back and forth between 6 and 7.
Well, they were at 5, and then they won that Oregon State.
Yeah, and they went up to 7, and then after getting whipped, they've now dropped down to 6. But
so yeah, if they could, of course, then they'd have to win a game in the Pac-12 tournament to ensure that. But this is a team that can do that. But
are you sure? I'm not sure any of our teams can win in the Pac-12 tournament. Actually,
yeah, I know it's actually illegal. Sorry,
sorry guys, against the rules.
It's against Nevada law.
It doesn't exist. Cannot happen.
And also Los Angeles law.
Yeah.
So let's take a break. We'll talk some beer. We'll talk some football.
Yeah.
And then we'll close this thing out.
And we're back. Was that creepy?
Yes.
I was trying to be a little creepy. What you drinking, dude?
Well, it was one of my favorite events of the year this weekend, the Holy Mountains anniversary party.
Oh, I bet that was awesome.
So it's really cool how they do it. Basically, they do a tap list, special tap list, a ton of special beers. They have like one keg that's all the barrel-aged like stouts, barley wines and stuff. And then when one blows, they put another crazy beer on. So I got there at open, and just like last year on Saturday, because they do it on Friday and Saturday. I can never make it on Friday because I don't live in Seattle.
Yep.
And but I always go on Saturday. And 2 years in a row, their Hand of Glory barley wine is the opening barrel-aged one. It's just fantastic. And then I stayed for, it's funny, I wasn't drinking much. I just have so many friends that are in beer. I don't see as much now because I don't go to as many shares, and I don't go to as many events because I have a child, and I'm just tired all the time. And like, Amanda'd be totally fine with me going to these things. But I'm just like, I just want to sit on my ass and do nothing.
Yep.
But yeah, so I get to see a lot of them, and it's great. It also didn't hurt that I had a friend friends who we're going to Pullman with this weekend. It was her birthday on Friday night, so we stayed at their house for the expressed purpose to get shit-faced. And so I didn't feel all that great on Saturday morning, but I was like, I'm doing this. I'm going to the Holy Mountain party.
Yeah.
But I basically I stayed there for 3 hours and just got one barrel-aged beer would kick. So I got 2018 Midnight Still after that, and then I got the special blended barrel-aged beer that they made for the event that they had sold in bottles the day before. Just one per person. Which I didn't get, obviously, but I got to try it. I got to have a glass of it. And so basically I just, had 3 6-ounce pours, got to talk to a bunch of friends. It was a great event. I did also pick up, they had a special IPA release on Saturday, and a double IPA hazy called Primordial Sky. Pretty cool, pretty nice hazy IPA. I tweeted it out, and I have to give him a shout out. Because I had one of my followers, I don't know if he's a listener, but so Brandon White, beer with Brandon, gave me a cheers and go Cougs. Nice picture of, he's also drinking Primordial Sky, the same beer as me. Also a Structures brewing beer called City of Solace,
nice.
Which is a great brewery up in Bellingham.
Yep.
Which would just be an insanely hyped brewery if it existed in Seattle. It's still pretty hyped given that it's in Bellingham. But so he gave me sent me a nice picture. He's drinking both those beers. So yeah, go give Beer with Brandon a follow. He says he's growing a career in beer, Cicerone, which is not an easy thing to achieve. Basically, it's a wine sommelier type thing, but it's not that easy. But he says, go Cougs. What care I how time advances. I am drinking ale today. Edgar Allan Poe quote. So that's cool. He only has 17 followers, so give at Beer with Brandon a follow.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks Brandon for that reply. Hopefully you also listen to the podcast because you'll probably really like this part. But yeah, so it's solid. Like Holy Mountain's not really known for their IPAs, but when they make them, they're bangers typically. This one's very good. It's got a cool label, as they typically do. Very heavy metal influenced. Stuff you couldn't take to church, Jeff. But I was wearing a Holy Mountain shirt on Friday, and I was at Safeway checking out, and this guy was like, "What heavy metal band is that?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "It's not. It's Holy Mountain. Like, it's a heavy metal."
Yeah.
But it's like on their anniversary party, they just straight up blare death metal.
Yeah, I
the
highly
whole fucking
recommend
day.
anybody who's never been to Holy Mountain that they should visit at some point.
Yeah, just great beer across the board.
Yeah.
I'm actually currently drinking their Three Fates Pilsner because I've already finished that other beer.
Yeah.
I love this Pilsner. They release it like twice a year. I just love it. It's not the cheapest Pilsner in the world, but it's worth it. It's so good.
I think the thing I like the most about Holy Mountain is that their beers are unusual. They tend to have, just really unusual flavor profiles, notes, just the stuff that's like, when you think I'm ordering this kind of beer, so I'm getting this kind of flavor. They tend to do these, and I know I'm not really talking to you because you obviously know all of this, but for people who have never been there, if you've ever maybe not felt, I don't know, like there are a lot of people who maybe aren't very adventurous with their beer. Holy Mountain, I think, is a really cool place to go to try something different because they don't have, or I mean, they do have, but a lot of their beers are not like crazy flavors. Like it's not like crazy wild out there stuff. Most of the stuff that they have tapped most of the time, it's just different.
Like peanut butter and jelly,
right?
Whatever.
Right. We've talked about, pastry stouts and whatever on the show. That's not what they're doing. And what they are doing is, okay, you go in there, you try something and it's a little different. Right. And usually, really excellent. And maybe just, something different than what you would normally drink and maybe enjoy in a way that you wouldn't normally enjoy your beer. It's a cool place. It can be a little intimidating. I will say, going there because, you probably won't recognize the beers. You may not recognize whatever the style is that it's labeled. Yeah. It's a very it's got a very, just kind of death metal hipster vibe to it. So it's, the first time you go in there, you might be like, I'm not so sure about this, but the beer is great. And it's a cool place. It's hard to find too, if you're not really sure where you're going. So
it's in Inner Bay. If you know where the that driving range is, off LA Bay, it's very close to there.
Park out back.
Park out back. Don't
by
try
the railroad.
park in the
Park
front.
out back by the railroad tracks.
Park up. That's one of the fun qualities of it. It's by a railroad track and all this stuff. But yeah, I tell you, I'm drinking the Three Fates. I love that they love making lagers. They make some absolutely crushable, beautiful lagers. I think saisons are really their jam.
Yep. I agree. Those are my favorites.
Beautiful. That's also the easiest to acquire of their beers. Like if you go to like a Tacoma Boys or any other beer store around Seattle, you can probably get the Goat, which is excellent.
Yes.
Which I drank on Clay Day last week.
I've had one of those.
And things like that. Vesper, which is like a 2.9% table beer, which is still delicious. But one of my favorites from them is Black Beer. It's just this 4% beer that they only make in the winter, but it's like a dark beer, and it's only 4%, but it's just like insane flavor on that beer, and it's just awesome. Like I always try to. I picked up a couple Crowlers a couple weekends ago, and Amanda and I enjoyed those, and I really like them. I truly believe that they elevated the Seattle beer scene. They came around at the end of 2014, early 2015, and I do think that they kind of showed the Seattle beer scene that it could be more like Seattle was known for having a lot of breweries, but they're all kind of doing the same thing. But they showed they could make these weird beers, and you'd have lines, and people would show up and drink them, and even the prices are higher. It doesn't matter; people are buying them, and I think you've seen the breweries that existed and the breweries that have come up have just had a higher standard for what they've made since Holy Mountain has been around. I think Fremont gets some credit for that as well. I'm not giving it all to Holy Mountain, but now we have so many good breweries in Seattle, in the Seattle area, from Bellingham down to Olympia, and it's just I think Holy Mountain deserves some credit for that, and it was kind of funny. I was moving from Vermont when I first moved here. Like I had all these hype breweries in Vermont that were like, well known. And I asked my buddy who was like really into craft beer and trading across, I was like, what's like the, what like new upcoming brewery should I check out in Seattle? He didn't know. And then Holy Mountain, I remember I think I first had one of their beers at Collins Pub before like a Sounders game. And I was like, holy shit, what is this? And I remember the next time I went to a Sounders game and made the point to go to their brewery. And then I just like fell in love, and I wait in line for their beers, and it's just, I have a ton of respect for what they do, and they're good people as well. So that helps. And actually one of my other favorite breweries, Floodland, their brewer started at Holy Mountain. There was not an amicable breakup, but so you don't really mention the two, but we're around each other. But
dude, beer feuds are the best feuds. That's for sure.
But already, that coaching tree has expanded,
right?
And given us great things. So Holy Mountain is great. I spent way more time talking about them than I thought I would. What are you drinking, Jeff?
I am having a beer from Level Beer in Portland.
Yes.
This is so it's a very timely beer. It fits in with, since we've been on the air, we're not really on the air, but you know what I mean? Since we've been recording shows for a year, this is back to our roots.
On the bites.
What's that?
We're on the bites.
Yeah. This is a beer called Extremely Stable Genius.
Oh God.
Getting back to our roots, this is the Coastal Elite segment of the beer part of the podcast. So this says, I've negotiated a deal to bring you this amazing hazy beer. It's so good. It might be my greatest accomplishment. And it's not going to cost you a thing. Mexico's going to pay for it. Trust me. My brain is very, very large. I have the best words. Hamburgers. I'm an extremely stable genius, okay? Perfect. The can is fantastic.
So they're also not the only brewery to use Stable Genius.
I'm sure they're not. I'm sure there are a lot of people trying to capitalize.
It's very
on
common.
That, so
they do what I do like about.
They know their audience though, dude. I saw that in the cooler and I was like, I don't even know what that tastes like, but I'm getting one of those. So
I know I see the branding for this beer, but a lot of their beers have like video game branding and stuff like that.
So this does have some video game branding on it.
I see like the tie part, but that's
so
just
it's not the tie.
Stable
There's
Genius.
like some there's a pin. No, there's a lapel pin, which is the dog from Duck Hunt.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm looking at the extremely label now.
Yeah, and then there's the shirt that's underneath the coat.
The lapel pin on the right.
Yeah, there's some Nintendo imagery there, and then a nice little pin of a naked silhouette of the extremely stable genius. So.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Like I said, they know their audience. They know their audience. They made a few bucks off me for sure with this. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Is it hazy?
Yeah.
No, it
well, you know me. I'm a sucker for hazy.
Kind of hazy. I'm just looking at pictures of it. It looks like kind of hazy. It's not like a super hazy beer. Oh no, wait. It just depends on the pour, I guess.
Maybe.
Some of them look really hazy.
Maybe. I mean, it's hazy for sure.
Yeah.
So
it's weird. The first picture I looked at was like, nah, I think someone didn't actually know what they were drinking.
Maybe that's entirely
because all the other ones look.
And I've got a picture. I'll post to Twitter too. So,
all right.
Yeah, I don't know what else. Let's see. Oh, you potty trained. If we're gonna get back to our roots, how'd the potty training go?
It's it's not.
It's going that well, huh?
It's not going well. The
first how long did you let her run around without pants?
I mean, we did the whole first day. She only she figured out because she only peed a little bit on the floor twice.
Okay.
She peed in the toilet twice.
Okay.
So we're like, we're making progress here. But today, she just absolutely refused to sit on the toilet.
Oh, dude. Kids are always going to let you know that they're actually in control.
She has this thing like she poops as soon as you put her down for a nap. Like it happens almost like clockwork at this point. So that's going to make it a challenge.
That's amazing.
Because she just poops in her diaper. Because obviously we put the diaper on her when we put her down for a nap.
Yeah, she likes a clean diaper, man.
Yeah,
she ain't pooping in that dirty diaper. That's gross.
But yeah, what I'm saying, like from, as soon as we put the diaper on her, it's like she was holding it. So I think that she's learning to hold it because she is not peeing as much as she normally does. But she just refuses to go to the bathroom on the toilet. And then like we put some, she tells us when she's going to poop, but then can we go to the toilet? And she's like, no, like I will not. And then you try to put her on it and she freaks out. And we've tried to bribe her with stickers and stuff. And that worked a couple times, but she saw through our game.
It's, having gone through this process 3 times, not with a girl, I obviously 3 boys, but the biggest thing I figured out was that they will do it when they're ready and not a minute before that. Like we talk ourselves into thinking we have a lot of control over this, and the kids are just like, yo, I control when and where I soil myself.
No, you basically just have to let them know it's an option. And so I'm trying to tell Amanda, it's like,
yeah,
but
like you got to make them think, like everything with kids, you got to make them think it's their choice.
Amanda's best friend, who has a baby that's 5 weeks older than Amanda, and she's been potty trained for like months already. And so of course Amanda's like, we got to do this. We have to do it.
You got to you got to resist the parent competition. I'm just telling you.
I know. And so Amanda had some time off. And so she's like, okay, we'll do it. But we were just trying to keep her reined in the kitchen so she wouldn't like mess up everything else in the house. We get really bored of her sitting in the kitchen. She's bored of it. We're bored of it. Like everyone's bored of it. She has toys in there, and she has, she can watch on Amanda's iPad. She can watch all the Disney Plus movies she wants. And it's just like, this is so boring. Like yesterday was really boring, and I was really grouchy by the end of the day. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's getting solved tomorrow by any means. But we'll see. We just like, also Amanda's just like, she's got days off and she doesn't want to just sit at the house all day.
Right.
She wants to go, but we can't like just take her out with no diaper on. So
yes, I know that Sarah was concerned with our youngest when he wasn't particularly motivated to use the toilet, and I was just telling her, I was like, he's not going to kindergarten in diapers. Like it's just, at some point he's going to be ready, and at some point it'll be done. And I mean, and I really, really wanted it to be done. Like I had, I people who have lots of kids, like I don't know how they do that, because it's like, I'd been changing diapers for basically like 6 years or something, 7 years, pretty much consecutively. And so I was so ready to be done with it. And, but you can't make them, they're just, kids will assert their control in various ways. And they have this amazing sense of when and where they can do it. It's, when they have a meltdown in the grocery store, right? Like they know that there ain't shit you can do about that. That if they start screaming and they start putting on a show in the middle of the grocery store, I mean, what are you going to do? Right? You're just like, my kid is screaming, and you're just like, shh, stop screaming. It's like everybody's looking at you, and they're like, yeah, everybody's looking at us right now because I'm screaming. Ha ha. And you're just like, whatever. You just end up throwing your hands up because you can't make them stop, right? You can't, hey, stop screaming. Anyway, so kids have this amazing way of just sort of knowing what's in their control. And I depending on the kid, I think some kids just really, with the potty training, they're just like, nah, I know that you want this and I'm not going to give it to you. And so you wait,
Yeah. She was doing this thing today where she'd be like, I'll go to the potty. And she'd like walk into the bathroom, like pull the step up to the potty. We'd help her get on the potty. And then she would immediately say, nope, I'm done. And like get off. And like,
She's running you guys around like a couple of monkeys. She's just like, nope, I'm done. And you're like, the fuck? Use the toilet. You know, she's just like, Does she laugh when she does it?
No, she's mad.
Oh, she's mad.
She acts really mad. Like, how dare you put me on the toilet? It's like, what? You just asked me to do this.
You asked for this. That's too funny.
She might be a psychopath. I don't know.
Well, we've already established she might be a nihilist, so.
Yeah, she's a nihilist, psychopath. I don't know.
She's sitting on the toilet thinking, does any of this actually matter? Does it actually matter if I pee or poop on the floor? Like, does it really matter? I don't know.
It does to me.
She's like, I mean, you know, if I shit in my pants, you're going to change the diaper. So, I mean, this is a pretty good life, actually. I don't have to worry about it at all.
What a good life. It'll never.
I know. It'll never be better than that. It's true. It's absolutely true. All right. Anything else?
I don't know. Good job, Anthony Gordon, at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, that was great. That was fun to see. He only got the one quarter and he got robbed of the MVP, but, you know, whatever. Good for him. I think he opened some eyes.
Yeah, that's good.
Something, by the way, I don't know if you thought this. I did. Where did this idea come from that his arm is extremely average?
I have no idea. Like, it's...
Like, I don't think he has a cannon, but, like he's not Luke Falk.
He's definitely better armed than Gardner Minshew.
Yeah. At least like, I think he does. Like, I always had I don't know. Like, sometimes I wonder, like, we talk about arm strength, and I don't know, unless like a guy's arm like really pops off the screen like a Jacob Eason, right? Like, you watch that guy throw and you're like, okay, that's a cannon, right? That is an absolute cannon. But everything else, it just sort of feels like, I mean, I don't know. How often does a quarterback just rip it?
Maybe Gordon's quick release kind of makes it feel like
maybe
it's got more heat behind it.
Maybe
because
I don't know.
The ball just comes out so quickly, he can fit it into tighter spots. I don't know. But he made that, you know, the throw rolling to his right, ended up being technically incomplete, but
it was rolling to his left. He was going to his left, throwing across his body.
His left. And he hits the receiver on the back of the end zone. He just doesn't get his feet down.
Yeah,
and,
so
you know,
weird.
An NFL player probably gets their feet down, but yeah, and he made, you know, even just the touchdown pass that he had when he rolled to his right and fade away, drops it in the bucket. Like, it's, you know, I don't know. We saw him throw some darts this year. So I don't know. I guess maybe we just don't have the 5-star dudes come in with just the cannons.
Maybe.
You know,
I don't know.
And so we watch Falk and then Minshew, and so we're just like used to, you know, the accurate but not strong arm guys. But yeah, I don't know. He felt like he was pretty close to Connor Holiday level of cannon, but maybe even we thought Connor Holiday was better arm wise than he actually was. I don't know.
But he made some really nice throws. I mean, and not just like he made the kind of throws you don't see a lot of times in that game because guys aren't used to playing with each other, right? And so the anticipatory throws, finding windows, things like that, you know, aren't super easy for quarterbacks to do. I mean, if you watched, I don't know how many people actually watched that game, but I watched pretty much the second half and watched Steven Montez, you know, flail around for a while.
Shocking.
Yeah, and watched, you know, Shea Patterson flail around for a while. I mean, it's, you know, Gordon, I did not see Herbert's quarter, so I can't speak to that. But
the MVP.
Yeah, the MVP, Justin Herbert, of course. But, you know, watching Gordon against, you know, the other guys I saw, you know, I saw Jalen Hurts back there play, you know, pretty much the whole fourth quarter. You know, Gordon easily looked the most in command, the most polished. You know, it's not like he made these killer throws, but he made these throws, like I said, anticipatory throws, throwing guys open. You know, didn't take a sack, I don't think, if I remember right. Maybe he had one. I don't know. Anyway, didn't really take a sack, moved around in the pocket well. made some throws when he was moving. One of the touchdowns was a throw while he was rolling to his right and kind of falling down. And then, of course, you mentioned the one throw to the left where he was rolling to his left and kind of threw across his body. Nearly had a touchdown there. So, yeah, he definitely looked as good as you would want to look in that game. I hope it helps him. I don't know how much it helps, but I hope it helps him. And I hope he gets a reasonable draft shot. I mean, nobody's going to draft him as a starter, but as Gardner Minshew showed, if you can get in the right spot, you can carve out a nice little niche for yourself and potentially get an opportunity.
Yeah, I think he'll get drafted.
Yeah, he's definitely going to get drafted.
Yeah,
it's just I think a matter of how high.
Yeah,
I'm thinking 4th or 5th round.
That'd be great.
It would be great.
Because Gardner was early 6th and
Falk was in the 6th.
Falk was in the 6th, so that'd be 3 straight WC starting quarterbacks get drafted.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That's good for optics.
Yep.
Especially since none of them were highly regarded out of any sort of anything.
Yep.
Obviously, Mike Leach is not here anymore, but
but
whatever. Has something to do with that. But whatever. We'll be slinging it still.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I met Rolo briefly the other day.
Yeah, you went to one of the events we talked about last week.
I went to Marco Polo the day after we recorded that podcast. I was hoping he would do Marco Polo because it's in South Seattle, so it's a little easier for me to get to. And so it was about 9, and I saw him post that, and I was like, Amanda, I'm going. And she's like, what? And I'm like, yep, driving up.
See you later.
So I went up there, and I met him very briefly. I told him about the blog and the whatever, of course, and me and Nick, another guy that writes for us, took a picture with him.
Yeah.
So that's that's all I wanted. I actually went. I didn't get it. I got there at first when I got there, they were taking a big group picture of everyone there. So they're like, go take a picture. And then I was waiting around to say hi to Rolo, and then he left. And I was talking to some friends after that, and then he left. And then
did he just sneak out? Was he just like?
No, everyone knew he was leaving. Like he was telling, like he came up to us. He's like, well, I'm on my way out. I got we got recruiting to do and stuff, whatever. And but yeah, so yeah, so I missed out on the free beer because he had already left and closed the tab.
He had already paid the tab.
Yeah.
That's bad time.
But yeah, but that's okay. It was cool. Say hi to him. He also, for another friend, who we mentioned on the podcast before, that their cousin who was deciding who lives in Colorado, but his parents are Cougs, was deciding between CU Boulder and WSU, and had recently chosen WSU. And so he recorded a video to say like "see you in the fall."
Oh, that's
them.
awesome!
So that was pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, it seems like it's cool he did that stuff. Like he kept saying he's got to leave, but anyone who would come up to him and wanted to talk to him, he would talk before he left. So that was pretty cool.
That is cool.
But yeah, I didn't get much in FaceTime or I wasn't really. He was probably there for about 15 minutes when I was there, so it wasn't much. But yeah, so yeah, Marco Polo in Seattle. It's a Cougar bar. It's in Georgetown. If you ever want to go, it's a cool little bar. They have they do their emulation of Cougar Country fry sauce. So
definitely a winner.
Always worth a shot.
Yeah.
They have a Cougar Gold cheeseburger, which I've had before, which is delicious as well. But yeah. So that was cool. Yeah. So, how about signing day next week? So I guess we can talk more about that then.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. They had a bunch of official visits this weekend, but no commitments out of that yet. So
yeah,
it's kind of interesting.
We shall see.
Normally you would hear about it. And they've probably got 7 or 8 spots. So
yeah, I think they have 8.
Yeah. So quite a bit of work to do to finish that guy up, and probably a major benefit to us that there was an early signing period, and that and I know they already let one guy out of his letter, a wide receiver from where's he from? Texas, something like that. Anyway, yeah, I think. anyway, yeah. So all those other guys stuck though, and that's good. And so we'll see what they're able to piece together. I know they're going after a 4-star in-state kid who's committed to Arizona. He's cornerback, so we'll see about that.
Yeah, we talked about him last week.
Yeah. So hopefully some of this stuff kind of comes through. But I don't know. They may leave a couple spots open. It wouldn't shock me if they left a couple spots open to take a couple of JUCOs or maybe even grad transfers at the end. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, so yeah, hopefully. Well, next week we'll probably record it before, but so hopefully we'll have some commitments by then.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a special edition.
Maybe we will
after signing day.
Signing day doesn't feel that special anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
I get.
All right. Well.
All right, man.
Go Cougs, Craig.
Go Cougs.